Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Enjoy the ride, Texas. We are back with our coach, Michael Pijanowski, joining us here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Jill. And how are you today?
Sir sounds so proper, my friend. I'm doing well. Expert at relationships and so much more. Michael, please introduce yourself to our listeners today.
All right. I'm Michael Pijanowski with Enjoy the Ride Consulting in Addison, Texas. I help awesome people find new ways to interact with their world. So I help people with anxiety and depression, help couples who are in conflict, work with people who are looking to break old habits and form new habits. I also work with people in a business setting in groups to help successful people become more effective. So I would encourage everybody to, reach out to me through the website. You can send me a text. We'll set up a free phone consultation. So, we find out if we resonate with each other.
All right. And for today, I know we have planned some great stuff. As always, holidays are upon us. It all started with Thanksgiving. That's 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago now, 2 maybe. Then Hanukkah. Now it's Christmas. Now it's New Year's. Everything is here. And what comes with the holidays, not just Santa Claus bringing gifts, it's a lot of stress. Can we talk about the seasonal stress that is upon us and pressure?
Yeah. So, I talk to a lot of people throughout my week. And, one of the questions I'm asking them these days is, hey, are you ready for the holidays? And a lot of people are like, oh, this is my favorite time of year. And I really like this. And I'm going to visit family, or I'm doing, I have all these plans. And then there's other people that are like, oh, I don't know. That's kind of the same response, only different. It's like, oh, I'm going to see family. And, and basically it's like, it's like walking through the mud for them. And so there's that level of discomfort and stress that comes with the holidays, with, interacting with our family and friends and just all the busyness around the season.
Yep, I know. There's a lot of it, but look, what happens in the holidays, it's exciting, it's joyous, it makes you feel like a kid. Right? It's just beautiful. But then the other side is the panic of, oh my gosh, I got to buy the gifts. Oh my gosh, I have to do this. I have to invite this one. I do the Christmas cards. I got to do this. There's so much to do. I got to shop for Aunt May. I have to shop. Wait, and then we're getting together for the holidays. But wait, I really don't like my aunt. I don't like my cousin. It's going to be a big fight. There's stress in all different areas. It's the most wonderful time of the year, but can we change the song to the most stressful time of the year?
Yeah.
You're our expert. How do we lessen the stress?
So the thing to understand is that especially when we're with family, and this is a stressful situation, that the emotional baggage, a lot of emotional baggage that we carry around came from them. And so we're kind of thrown back into maybe when we were 5 and something happened at a family event, or just being with parents or sometimes siblings can be challenging. It's just, it's part of our history. And so we're kind of tied to them.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, you know what? Let me ask you, are your holidays stressful, or do you live the perfect holiday life?
Not perfect, but I found, because I'm kind of a type A kind of a guy, any shopping I need to do, I try to get it done early, because I know how I feel if I don't.
Like me.
Yeah, it's like I know how I feel if I procrastinate. And so it's not perfect though.
What about family challenges? I mean, a lot of times you spend time with family. It can be challenging for some. Let's talk about that. What about for you personally as well?
So, so it certainly has its challenges, and I've found ways to work with it that are really transformational. It really amazes me still now when I look at the challenges of like being with my father, and used to get really triggered about a lot of the ways that he is, and so to kind of help people along, and I'll carry on with that story. But so one of the things we can do to help ourselves kind of see the way our family, to kind of see them as they are, and then to see ourselves. One thing to do is you can take out a sheet of paper and write down a list of all the people that were influential in your life up to the age of 11. And so you write all these names down, parents, siblings, teachers, coaches, people, preachers, pastors, whatever. So we have this list, and you write on the left side positive aspects and negative aspects on the right. And so you look at each one of these people and you write down any aspects, and just, you don't have to link them to the person, you just write down a list. And so when you finish this list of positive and negative attributes, this is the good news, bad news. So the good news, bad news is that all those things reside inside of us because they were part of our lives. The things that we see in them that we like and we don't like are a part of us.
True. So
what I've done, and I've done this process a few times, and what I noticed is recently, like 3 years ago, I did this process. And so I put an initial next to the important relationships in my life, former wife and girlfriends. And so what I did find was really cool, because I saw that as I progressed in time, the women that I was involved with had fewer of the negative aspects. So to me, that was like, wow, okay, so I am getting somewhere, because a lot of times in the moment we feel like we haven't done anything, we haven't evolved. And sometimes it's nice to see something visual to really bring that to light. Okay, so back to my father.
Okay.
So part of the work is really seeing people for who they are. And my brother and I were kind of on similar paths, and so we would talk about, like, if he'd spend some time with our dad, or if I talked to him, we'd always say, hey, how did you feel? Did you get triggered? And so the whole idea is to accept them the way they are and stop judging them, because we're all on a journey, and we're all, our life paths all have certain aspects to them that are unique to us.
But overall similar.
Yeah, we're
we
all similar.
Experience similar.
Yes, yes, we're all unique like everybody else,
Yeah.
And then the other thing to really think about is how unique we are. And so, that nobody since the beginning of time has had the same life experience that you are having right now. Nobody, even a twin, and then you don't have to go back that far before there were cell phones. And so that changes our experience of life. And so nobody has ever had the same experience of life. There's things that happen that affect us. And so it's kind of cool to think that we are that unique. And so, the cookie cutter approach to life, of thinking that somebody's life is not going the way you think it should, it's just going to bring you stress, because, I get stressed about, my dad's attitude or the things he talked about. And I just, it would like grate on me,
I can see you cringing, you're grinding your teeth. I feel
like it's just grating on me. And because I felt that he needed to be different than he is. And so the amazing thing that I learned from this, and the thing that I thought was very magical, is as I really accepted him as he is, we have really nice conversations now. It's almost like,
wow,
it's almost like he has changed.
He has an epiphany.
And in my view, he has. But you don't do this process to change anyone. You do it. You really truly have to accept them the way they are. But and Eckhart Tolle says that they will change. The others will change, but you can't make that as part of your agenda. So with him, it worked wonderfully, and my relationship with him is much improved. And I enjoy spending time with him, and now I just smile when I see these little quirks that would bother me before, because I'm like, he's just being him. He's doing him, I'm doing me.
Yeah. Now, what would you say, it is the holidays and a lot of people are disappointed in themselves? Were they on, it's like a time of reflection, like, we want to be somewhere, but people get a little dissatisfied with themselves. What would you say to someone who's in that position? Because a lot of us get that way. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, and actually, that whole sense of dissatisfaction is a part of life, and um, so we're part of our dissatisfaction is we're regretting the past or dreading the future, which that sets us up to be stressed. But the other thing is dissatisfaction serves a really useful purpose. I spoke with a young guy like 21 years old who's managing a restaurant by himself, and he was just under a lot of stress, and for some reason he started telling me this stuff. And so I said,
I
"Oh, by the
wonder
way,
why
I'm a
it's
relationship
just something
coach."
about you.
Yeah,
And
it's
all
like
of a sudden,
you talked to the right
and
guy, and so we had a really cool discussion, and he felt so much better afterwards. So what I explained to him was, okay, you feel dissatisfied, okay,
mhm,
or you're feeling stressed, but understand that what you're doing right now,
is,
you are, he's working 70, 80 hours a week,
mhm,
and I said, right now you are
hey,
gaining experience at an exponential level, and you are not going to be in that job forever.
yep, look at the positives. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean nothing stays the same. So you're gaining experience right now for that next position.
Uh-huh.
And so when you reach that, dissatisfaction is actually a really cool thing, because when you reach that point of dissatisfaction that you say, I can't do this anymore, or I'm done, then you start, it's a sign from the universe to say you need to change direction, you need to move in another direction, start doing something different. And so dissatisfaction really serves us. uh, I can see that in my own life. It's like when I got to a point when I was really feeling like I was at the end of my run at a particular job. I either got promoted or a different location, or a different job, and then it starts over, and then there's the new challenge, and it feels good, and then after a while you get to that point of, I just feel like this is done, and so you feel that dissatisfaction, and it's just time to change. That's all. So it's just kind of how you look at it.
Got it. All right. What did you want to discuss next, Michael?
All right, so um, life's purpose, we can kind of get into that because that kind of ties into this whole
Mm-hmm.
discussion of um, stress and dissatisfaction. And so, uh, as we had talked about before, our life purpose is kind of unfolding in front of us. We do we're kind of, as we do things, we're fulfilling a purpose. In the last couple of months, I actually started driving overnight for Lyft, and
Oh,
just
cool.
and it's really
You
been,
must meet some great people, right? Like the
yes,
stories. It's kind
happy
of,
drunks and
yeah.
interesting people. And I picked up a lady. It's kind of funny. It's like I get these people that really, in some cases, they need somebody to talk
They
to, and
need
it's like,
you. It's
yeah,
like they're paying, it's like you're getting paid for a service, but you're also coaching them. You're like,
yeah, and I don't draw anybody into a conversation. It just kind of happens.
mm-hmm.
There was a guy last week, and I just, hey, ready for the holidays, and how you doing? How's your day going? And either they talk or they don't, and I'm okay either way. So this guy last week starts saying, well, he found out they're having some kind of church services on Wednesday. It was a Wednesday, and so he was going to go check that out. And then so that kind of started a conversation a little along the lines of religion. And so I've got some pretty, interesting views on that. And so it started another conversation where he told me he was, recently separated from his wife. And then we got into, a little bit more. And so, as he asked questions, I answered. And so by the end of the ride, I gave him a card and said, hey, I've got some resources. There's links to the podcast. You can look at, various things. And one of the little quotes that I left him, which he just thought was so cool,
Oh,
because he was really brought up in a very religious background. And so, some people even call it like spiritual trauma, in some cases where people are just, brought up in such a tight environment. So the
mm-hmm.
quote I gave him was that faith is letting go, and belief is clinging. So, when you believe in something, when you have a belief, it means that you don't know. And so there's a lot of, you know, that's very unstable because you're trying to grasp onto something that you think or you hope is true, but faith is about letting go, and it's about letting go of everything, all
Yeah.
your beliefs. I mean, because the beliefs that we've had since we were little kids were handed to us. We were told what to believe, and this is going to happen if you don't do that, and so we've got all this stuff going on in our minds that moves us in a direction. And
Hmm.
so he loved that, and he sent me a text a little while later, and he just repeated the quote, and then I know he was on the site, and so maybe at some point we'll meet again,
Connect.
but
Aw.
anyways, so purpose. So and after that, and I got several other stories like that, um, but the point is, in that moment, I thought, wow, I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and uh, it doesn't have to fit into a mold of what you maybe think it
Think.
is,
Mm-hmm.
and like in fact, I was talking to my daughter about this too. It's like, just because you're in a job where you feel like maybe you're not fulfilling your purpose, you're influencing other people in a positive way, no matter what you're doing. And so, kind of relax. And, life is unfolding the way it's going to unfold. And it's fun. It can be a very pleasurable experience. And I find myself, the more I let go, the better, the better things go for me,
Yeah.
and the cooler things start happening. I mean, like all these people that I meet.
That is awesome. It's so cool. Like it's like, it reminds me of, there's a show, it was called Taxi Cab Confessions. Is that what it was? Do you know about that show?
No, I don't know about
Google
that.
it later. I think it's called Taxi Cab Confessions.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like the host drives around with the cameras in the car, and yeah, people tell their life stories and they bond. And then there's one that's a game show. It's like, wow, it's like, but you learn so much about so many people. Like, whoever thought being a driver for like Lyft or like Uber, like it so meaningful, right? I mean, it's a job, you're making money and you're taking
Yeah.
people from here to there. But what happens, it's so exciting. Well, you could have a bad person, a good person, but most of the time it's just the experience of life. I love it. It's like, you go out, you never know who you're going to meet. I'm like you, I'm conversational. So I like that, to make a conversation with people, and you learn from them as much as they learn from you. It's so cool.
And it also teaches acceptance
Mm-hmm.
because um, I I picked up a young couple probably in their mid 20s, and I picked them up at a strip club and taking them home. And so I have no judgment about what they were doing. I don't really care. And they argued the whole way back. And so the girl kept apologizing, and I'm just keeping quiet. And so after a while, and the guy did most of the talking, and he was just being a whiny baby. And I'm just sitting there, and she says, "I'm really sorry," and she's telling him, "Shut up, shut up, you're gonna mess up my rating." And I said, "No," and she's apologizing to me, and I said, "No, actually, this is good. I'm actually a relationship coach, and I find this stuff really interesting." And after that, the guy shut up. But I just thought it was funny because I thought these two young folks were like the poster children for human suffering, and it's just kind of it's part of the human condition, and it was just on display for just for me to observe.
Was
And
it like jealousy that like he was near a stripper?
oh yeah,
Okay, that's
oh
what
yeah,
I
it was
figured.
horrible.
But
Like,
she was
she
willing
got
to
a
go with
text.
him and said like, okay, let's go. This is cool. It's fine. But then it bothered her.
Well, and then no, so I guess
Or
she got a text from an ex-boyfriend, and then he just got all bent out of shape. And I'm thinking to myself, what does that have to do with you? And what does it have to do with her? She's with you. And it's like, I'm thinking all this stuff like, are you kidding? I mean, this whole jealousy thing is really insecurity. Um, and yeah, they won't be together for much longer. But she's part of this whole deal too. And
yeah.
so, so she's with a guy like that. And then it just boggles my mind. How can he be upset about a text and they just got back from a strip club? So I'm like, I don't get it. It doesn't compute.
Got it. Yeah. Wow.
So
Wow.
interesting stuff out there, but yeah, it teaches a lot of tolerance and acceptance because there are so many different people, and we don't know, we have no idea what their path is and what they're supposed to go through. And um, and that's why I got to the point where I don't try to fix anybody. I don't think anything's wrong. When somebody asks a question, I can answer it. If they don't ask a question, I could watch somebody suffer all day long. It really doesn't matter to me because it could be a part of their divine plan. Who
Yeah.
am I to interfere
No,
in
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
in that plan?
Wow.
So
Wow. Good conversation. All right. So, yeah, how we talking about how life's purpose obviously tied into the conversation. Do you want to talk a little about any advice that you want to give to maybe, some people that are estranged from their families, from their kids, from their parents during the holidays? Because we know that's the case in a lot of instances.
yeah, it's really kind of an epidemic. I had no idea how widespread it was until it happened to me. So I have a 26-year-old son, and we haven't spoken since 2015. And so that was a huge challenge for me because he's like my little mini me. I mean, he
Oh.
is, to watch him, when he was like 17, and he was in karate class and he was teaching the little kids, and the little kids just love him. He was carrying him around on his shoulders. And I mean, it was just, this kid's like, he's got a
Mm-hmm.
great work ethic. And, because and the funny thing is, he decided to cut off communication with me, and I don't know exactly why. I've never really been able to find out exactly why, but I know, the trigger points around that, and I know, he really had a problem with me divorcing his mother,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so maybe he feels like he's a protector. I don't want to get into all that, but the thing
Yeah.
is, I had to deal with that, and it was tearing me apart. And so I started really researching this whole thing and finding out that, first of all, it's pretty widespread. The other thing is, and back to everybody's on their own path. So, he's made choices that are causing him an extreme amount of anger and pain. And maybe that's just the way his life needs to unfold. And the other part of that is, if I put my life on hold waiting for him to do something different, and just because it was tearing me apart. It really, really was just a huge level of stress for me. And so I read a book called Constructive Wallowing that really helped, as well as a lot of other things. But what I really had to come to a point of actually mourning his loss as if he had died. I mean, I,
Mm-hmm.
I did that like 4 years ago when I moved to Texas, and I I remember I cried for hours in the car just
Wow.
mourning him as if he had passed, because I did lose him. He's, and I am willing, if he knocks on my door tomorrow or whenever, I would be more than happy to throw my arms around him and love him just like nothing happened. But
Of course.
um, but I really had to release myself. My whole life was on hold waiting for something in him to change. And so
And
I can live a peaceful existence knowing that he's just living out his karma or his life or whatever. The way things happen, they happen.
and
I can't go back and change things to make it okay for him.
of course.
Luckily, I have an extraordinarily good relationship with my daughter, and she's got a good relationship with her brother, which is good. Um, and so here we are, but it's a huge, especially during the holidays, it's a huge thing. And so I guess the message I want to tell people is that take care of yourself. You got
Yeah.
to live your life. And yeah, it's a terrible thing, but
Hmm.
you're not in on the whole plan of what's in store for their lives. And thinking that whatever is going on is wrong is just a source of a lot of stress for us.
It sure is a lot of stress on so many of us. All right, let me ask you, what about we have a few extra minutes here today. Let me ask you, what is the advice you would say to other people out there dealing with this, right? I mean, it's hard as a parent, right?
Yeah.
To know, would you consider, if you know where they are, write a letter? Would you consider trying to make contact, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've tried a lot of different things. I sat down and I wrote a letter to him, which you know, and I mailed it instead of email, uh, outlining everything I could have possibly done wrong as a father, to try to own the fact that
Mhm.
I'm human. I'm like, if I could have done things differently, I would have. And none of that did any good. And at this point, reaching out to him, it just angers him. And right now he's blocked me on his phone. Although he unblocked me about a month ago just to say, you know, I still hate you, and then reblocked me.
Okay.
And
But
so, you know, that's, but you know, that's, and I don't know what the trigger for that was. So, um, but as far as advice for anybody, you know, you just got to carry on with your life, because you have no idea how long this is going to go.
yeah,
You just don't know. And so if you stop your life, you could live out the rest of your days just hoping and living in, all this regret and anger and guilt and whatever emotions come up, and you have no control over what your child is going to do. So
yeah,
don't tear your own, you know, the best advice is don't tear up your own life over this. Live your
absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
Uh, it's hard, but it was the only way out for me, and it was
Yeah.
extremely painful. And you know, so take care of yourself. It's
All right.
always the thing, you know, take care of yourself, you know, take care of the inside of you, and then the outside will, you
Follow.
know, follow. Yeah.
Any books you want to talk about that you've read recently that you want to share with us?
Yeah, along kind of fitting in with today's conversation, Constructive Wallowing, Tina Gilbertson, that's the one I mentioned, which was really helpful for me, and you know, with the estranged child. The Wisdom of Insecurity, which is from Alan Watts, who, I think he died in like 1978. The guy was so far ahead of his time. It's incredible. There's just dozens of YouTube videos with his talks, on YouTube, and he's just, um, he was talking about the power of now before the power of now was
Even
anything.
existed.
He's
Okay.
just an awesome guy. So then another good book is I Can See Clearly Now by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he really kind of talks about his life, and how he saw his life unfolding, you know, like all the stuff we just talked about, you know, unfolding in a certain direction, and it had a reason,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like, oh, now I see why that happened. And then, of course, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, which was one of the books that was a huge game changer for me. So
Oh.
those are just a few.
And just for those new listeners out there today, what brought you into this field of relationship coaching? How did you become so good at it?
It was from my own pain, and so I recently had, a friend reach out to me, and she wants to be a coach. And um, you know, the thing that I would say is that, I feel like it's more of a calling. I didn't wake up one day and think that I needed to do this. I also don't think that there's anything wrong in the world that needs changing. However, when
Mm-hmm.
people ask questions, I answer them, and I don't know. That's where I'm at right now until something changes.
Good. And now when you work with someone, are you doing individuals, doing couples, or both? How do you, usually work with your clients? And could you give us an example, like time frame, how long it takes to work with someone? So someone out there may be apprehensive to contact you to ask these questions. How long of a commitment is it? Because they're nervous. Is it, once a week? Is it twice a week? What normally happens, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, normally it's a once a week, because it takes a while to digest new information. As far as how long the process takes, it's really up to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
When I deal with couples, my preference is I want to deal with them individually,
Yeah.
because everything that is going on in our lives that is, you know, giving us problems is within us. And so we need to see that part of us, so that we can see our partners in a new light. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what I applied to my father. So you really need to become accepting. And so I like to work with them as individuals. and that works better. The only other thing is how long it's going to take depends on the person. I've
Yeah.
seen some people that are just like, no, I want to talk to you about my problems, and I'm like, could we please just put that on the side
Uh-huh.
and let's talk about, emotions. Let's talk about triggers. Let's get to the core of the problem, and then you may not want to talk about all the things you think you want to talk about. And some people are resistant to that, so they could meet with me for a year and we'd never get anywhere.
Got it.
I would never let it run that long. I usually just tell them, I think what you need is like, a traditional therapist where you can tell them all your, tell them everything that's going on.
Past, because the therapist would technically dive into their past, right? To see why they're this way. Is that how the difference
and
between
then,
therapist and coach? Could you explain that? Because that
yeah,
does
so
get
a lot of
confusing to some
traditional
people.
therapy is actually diagnosing what's wrong, which is not really, first of all, it's taking you back into the problem and reigniting all those emotions, but not giving us a way to say, well, how do I work with that?
Mhm.
And also, a diagnosis is not helpful. Saying, well, I have, PTSD, or I have this stress, and it's from this thing.
Mhm.
Well, that's a problem too, because now we're pointing to the outside as being the answer to
Yep.
our inside.
Got it. Makes sense. All
Yeah.
right. And Michael, I know you always leave us with some great quotes. Did you have any in mind for us today?
I do.
Or did
I
you use
do.
them all in the lift?
Oh, no, I got a never-ending supply, Jill.
Great.
So you must learn to let go, release the stress. You are never in control anyway. And that's Steve Maraboli. Set peace of mind as your highest goal and organize your life around it. Brian Tracy. And favorite one here is stress is caused by being here, but wanting to be there. And that's Eckhart Tolle.
Ah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites because that just really sums it up. We can't accept where we're at because it's like, no, I need to be there. I need to be with that person, or I need to have a partner now, or whatever it is. And it's like, it just causes a lot of problems. Another one is the time to relax is when you don't have time for it.
So true. That's a good one. You got me.
Yeah. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another, and that's William James.
Oh,
So,
can't.
yep.
Yeah. When I stress, I just keep going. Okay, go ahead. You have another
Yeah,
one?
I mean, the whole stress thing is like, and it hits me once in a while too. I mean, I feel a level of stress before I prep for every show. And so,
You would never know.
yeah, I mean, but it's like I observe it, but I know that when I'm working on the notes, I don't even have a concept of time. I'm just so into it, and I realize, okay, so there's a certain level of discomfort sometimes with living your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And but you can't grow unless there's some level of discomfort. I mean, you're doing something you've never done, and so you're just on the edge of your boundary, and you're stepping over it a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And so that little bit of stress is growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand it, and it's good. It all melts away when we start. So
Good. Well, Michael, tell our listeners how we can reach out to you.
okay, they can reach me at michael@enjoytheridetexas.com. They'll find my phone number within there. They can text me. We set up a free phone consultation and go from there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, for being here, and looking forward to the next time we speak. Have a great day, Michael.
Thanks. You too, Jill.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, the same. Stay tuned. More of the show is on the way. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.